In this series, we're going to go over the ways you can practice at home if you don't have a partner and you don't have feedback and you're not in class. And you'll notice with this chapter and also other chapters, but especially this chapter, that we'll be using different accoutrements, right? So here we have a ballet bar, and we know you all have one at home, but if you don't, then think of this as a dresser or a wall. Imagine you have a wall at home, and this is a chair, and it really is a chair, and you'll have one of those at home. So starting with the followers, if you're doing front and back ochos, and this is a very brief reminder actually of what was said earlier, you can watch the chapter, and as you watch the chapter, you can do this with us, the front ocho chapter, and you can use, a counter or something, stepping forward, and then feel how your arms would work to help you pivot, because they would actually do the same with the leader. As I go over, I want you to experience how if my leg is open, it's harder to pivot, and if the leg is tighter, it's easier to pivot. Right, so the experience you get pivoting at home with your kitchen counter is really very similar to the experience you get doing it with a leader, except leaders can make it sort of harder than the kitchen counter or easier depending on the leader. For the leaders, as you do this, front ocho technique is actually, ocho technique is actually quite hard because it's counterintuitive. And so the first thing I want to make the point is that when you lead the follower to ocho, that this pivot does not come from your hips. Your hips are stabilizing, and then through your abs it happens. So if I do this, my upper body moves, but my hips do not. So what you're going to do is you're going to get a chair, and you're going to put it on something that can slide, just behind you like this. And then if when you ocho her, you do this, and then you come back, and there's space there, that means you moved your hips. How'd that happen? So you move the chair there, and you rotate through your abs. It's not about my arms, right? It's about rotating through my abs to pivot my chest. But I look back and the chair is still touching me. This is good. That's number one. Number two, when you're pivoting the lady, there's this instinct to do this or that. And so I want you to think that if beautiful follower right here in front of you, it's a good life, left arm a little open so that there's space. So you're going around the circle of the follower. So what guys usually do, let's pretend, once again, your ballet bar that you keep at home handy for instances just like this, that if my follower's here and I'm pulling back with my arm to pivot her, I want to do this with my left arm. And usually what guys do is this, right? They pull the arm in. And so the reason you use a wall or a dresser is so that as you go along the wall, you're forced to keep this left arm touching it, keeping it out. And the same thing is true of your right arm, but instead of letting it be out, you're going to pick something you're right next to. So with the right arm, as you pivot her, for example, to pivot this way or this way, wherever she is, I'll do this. So you see my right arm stays close to her body in this line, and my left arm stays open. So ideally, you can, for example, set up a chair slightly taller than this, alongside a wall, and stand a couple feet away from the wall so your arm stays open, but right next to this line of chairs. And then you can do this, saying to her to pivot. So you can learn that coordination. And then you have the touch as feedback. Because what will happen, and this will happen to you unless you're like gifted, far more than I was, you'll do this. Chair behind you, you do this, and the chair will move, and you'll do this, and you'll lose contact with the wall. So try that. Wall, left arm open, right arm alongside her body, or in this case, very close to your body in a line, hips even.